the fathers here in the church and the servant felt that we need to discuss a topic for our young youth, boys and girls. It's an issue that's really growing in schools, and I used a title of St. Paul verse says, "We are not ignorant of his devices," which means that the devil in every generation tries to change his color to really show a different trick. So the trick today is called vaping. And I would like to tell you the facts and the myth about it. This is an electronic delivery system. It can be called e-cigarettes, vapes, vape pen, mods, tanks, Joule, Pax Era, and many, many other names. How do they work? The e-cigarette produces an aerosol by heating a liquid that usually contains anything you put it in. Flavoring, nicotine, or unfortunately, some chemicals. The liquid used that contains the nicotine is called the e-juice or the e-liquid. Users inhale the e-cigarette aerosol into their lungs, and the people who are friending with, we call them the second-hand smokers. So even if you don't smoke, but you are sitting with someone else who is using an e-cigarette, you are inhaling the aerosol, which I'm going to speak about. The e-cigarette devices, unfortunately today, is not only flavors, but people are putting marijuana and other drugs. There are 4 generations, so they are improving on the device. The first generation used to look like a cigarette that eventually became like, as you can see, this pink one, which has a battery, has a container, and it can last many days. Now moms and dads don't even know, they think it's an USB drive. Kids are using it, put it in the computer because it looks exactly like a USB, because you charge it like you charge your phone in the computer. And of course there are feminine looking light. This is the most common today in the streets, called Joule, and a new verb came into the English language called Jouling. Now we have new verbs in the English language, thanks to the devil. And there are 12, to my knowledge, as far as I research, of flavors. So girls are so interested because they think they are inhaling mango or grapes or cool mint or others. There are many flavors. This is produced by the Academy of Pediatrics, and it shows the cycle, how it works. You heat it first, and once you heat it, becomes aerosolized. It takes the nicotine into your lung with the vapor, with the aerosol. And there is a lot of increase in the numbers of high school users. So this is over 6 years period, how the e-cigarette became so prevalent in our schools. And since I am connected a lot with Grover Cleveland school, so they are very much having this problem in that school, that there are a lot of their students, they carry these with them. Unfortunately, college retreats, high school retreats, grads retreats, unfortunately they bring it with them. And the question is, are e-cigarette harmful or less harmful to smoking? The lies are that e-cigarette less harmful and can substitute smoking. So when you have e-cigarette, you are less harming your lungs. But that's a lie. What is the truth? The e-cigarette contain fewer toxins, however, they are not free of toxins, and some of them are even more harmful than cigarettes. The problem today that the federal government did not regulate yet e-cigarette. So the e-cigarette box that you buy may say 0 nicotine, and it may have 2.5% nicotine. So unfortunately, this is an unregulated for customers. There are different ingredients and different hardwares and variable amounts of nicotine and toxic substance being used. The most important center in America is called the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. They published this last year, 2018, saying quick facts on the risks of e-cigarette for kids, teens, and young adults. And this is their facts. Nicotine levels are very variable. 2, whatever you read is not accurate. The labeling on the e-cigarette, do not believe it, because there is no regulation for it. So it's not a reliable indicator of what exactly is carried within that vape. For example, the designer of the Joule, which is the most common e-cigarette used by girls and boys in college and high school, they have 2.7 higher incidence of nicotine than the regular cigarettes. There is CDC reported that there is increased potential for addiction for our teens and college because they use it before the age of 18. A recently published study found that 37% of people who use it do not know exactly what does it contain. Now, why is nicotine, just in case if you're wondering, is unsafe for our youth? Number one, it's an addictive medication, whether it's in cigarettes, cigars, pipes, or e-cigarette. Nicotine can harm the brain of adolescents if they smoke it before the age of nicotine, and there are certain published studies showing decreased academic performance and memory for those who use nicotine before the age of 25. Using nicotine in adolescence can harm control, learning, mood, and impulse control. Nicotine changes synapses in the brain and affect the memory of our youth. Using nicotine can increase future addiction, and I'll show about the aerosol. Now the aerosol, what if a young girl or a boy says, I am only smoking it for the flavor, I'm not putting any nicotine. This study that you may not see very clearly but published in Public Health, Consequences of E-Cigarettes, National Academics of Science, 2018, these are their conclusions. The e-cigarette aerosol that users breathe from the device and exhale can contain harmful, potentially harmful, including all of these substances: nicotine, ultrafine, diacetyl, volatile organic compounds, cancer-causing chemicals, heavy metals like nickel, tin, and lead. It's very difficult for consumers to know what exactly the e-cigarette contains because, as I said before, it's unregulated. So a 0% written on a label of a packet does not mean exactly no nicotine. This is a recently published study in 2018. 1 Joule pod is equal to 20 cigarettes. So our kids who think they are taking something like a mango flavor, they don't know they are taking almost more than a packet of cigarette in one day. In 2012, adults' highest level of academic achievement went down among those who are smoking these types. This is a recent study that showed that teens are 16 times have higher incidence of addiction when they use Joule before the age. This is the CEO and the president of a very good initiative called the Truth Initiative, and he basically published a study called It's a Pathway for Addiction. It's all against Joule. Joule's highest nicotine up to 2.7 times what other e-cigarettes have. It's highly appealing to our youth because it has nice flavors like mint or grapes, and they think they are using it for the flavors. Nearly 9 out of 10 smokers by the age of 18 are going to be vulnerable for addiction. There is a myth. E-cigarette has no or little nicotine, and unfortunately, there was a study showing almost 99% of e-cigarette products sold at convenience stores contain nicotine, even though the label may say different. 60% of our teens incorrectly reported that e-cigarettes are only being used for the flavors, not knowing what exactly it carries. Another myth, I only do it for the flavor. I like the flavor. I like the mango flavor. Again, they think they are smoking flavors, but they don't know how much toxins there is. A study for the middle and high school student found that 43% who used e-cigarette, they tried them because of the flavors, unaware of what exactly happened. This is the Truth Initiative. 63% of Joule users do not know what the product contains, and they think it does not have nicotine. What do I do as a teenager? I'm speaking to those who never smoke, and people who tried, and people who are actively smoking. Number one, know the facts. And if you don't believe me, please go and study yourself. You need to know what are the dangers of nicotine. You need to learn the dangers of the aerosol. You need to know the dangers of addiction. You need to know the effects on your head, on your brain, academic, performance, memory, and so forth. Talk to someone. We have plenty of priests here who are very enlightened, very educated. Many of the high school servants, college servants, please talk to someone. Avoid those friends who are giving you these. We had retreats that the vape was given to somebody and somebody had it and thinking it's a flavor. And servants are quite aware, they took it, but unfortunately in many churches in the area, this is not the same. So it is going to be prevalent because the schools are using it. What do I do as a parent? Number one, do not just tell your child you should not use it. Learn the facts. Learn why it's wrong. Be a role model. If you are smoking yourself, don't try to convince your child to not smoke. Start by yourself, please. How and when do you talk to your girl or your boy? If you are walking together and saw someone who is vaping or jouling or smoking an e-cigarette, that's a good time. If you pass by a store that sells it, talk about it. If you saw an ad in a TV or somewhere, use that opportunity to talk about this danger. Finally, I want to say that there are people who will say, where is smoking or vaping in the Bible? Actually, there is. Vaping is written in the Bible. Maybe not exactly the word vaping, because as I said, the devil changes his colors every generation. But there is 2 verses very important. I would love our youth to learn them. The first one, don't you know that your bodies are the bodies of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? Meaning, your body, whether you're a boy, girl, man, or a woman, is exactly like this altar of the Holy Spirit. Can you imagine you smoking inside the altar? If you cannot imagine that, why would you think that it's lawful for you to use it inside your own body? The second and final verse, St. Paul said, all things are lawful, so you can go and vape. All things are lawful. You can go on Joule. However, you need to subject anything you do over 3 facts. Is it helpful? Is it going to overpower me? And is it building me? Am I going to be better with it? If it's neither helpful nor going to make me better, or is going to overpower me, then it's wrong. So vaping will fall under this. I put this as a final slide. Can you imagine you go in the place where you get Pepsi can or Coke can, and now there are brains you're going to buy. I am worried the brains of our children are being corrupted, some with video games, some with pornography, some with vaping, but there is no way we can buy a new brain for our youth. So let us be careful. Glory be to God forever. Amen.